Secretly recorded from deep inside the bowels of a decommissioned missile silo, we bring you the man, one single man who wants to bring light to the darkness and dark to the lightness. Although he's not always right, he is always certain. So now, with security protocols in place, the protesters have been forced back behind the barricades and the blast doors are now sealed. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the host of Hutcast, Mr. Tim Hutner.
Thank you, Sergeant-at-Arms. You can now take your post. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the individual and participants. These views and opinions expressed do not represent those of the host or the show. The opinions in this broadcast are not to replace your legal, medical, or spiritual professionals. Podcast 2/4/2024 in our studio today. In person, Nicole Riggs, intake coordinator for the Medical Justice of Minnesota. You guys have heard it of several times on the show. All this mask, and if you've had a loved one that's been through this, oh yeah, you want to listen in. So today is the day you get to hear her firsthand on Hutcast. Stand by, we'll be right back. The current healthcare system is not meeting the needs of real people. People are demanding better care, better options, and want results. So Gareth Care has launched and is advocating for those in the U.S. and internationally, as people are realizing the controlled system has not been there for them. If you want your own independent advocate that is not controlled by big corporations, call or text and enroll today to get your advocate for your needs, serving all ages. For any healthcare needs you might have, you matter. Here's how you get started. www.garethcare.com. That is GRAITHCARE.com. Call Gareth Care direct at 469-864-7149. Call or text the questions to Healthcare Sucks and get an advocate with Gareth Care. 469-864-7149. Mention Hutcast and you will get an additional 10% discount on your first advocacy bundle. The staff at Gareth Care will take care of you. Remember, mention Hutcast and get that extra 10% off your first bundle of time. And this is all brought to you from Gareth Care. Welcome back to Hutcast. As I said earlier in pre-roll, Nicole Riggs, intake coordinator for the Medical Justice of Minnesota. It's kind of a thing out there, people. You're out in the world. You see this stuff going on. Everybody thinks it's gone. It's not. It's here. It's happening. Nicole, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you coming to the studio. Now, let's start off with what got you into this? What was the driving force? Everybody's got a mental currency. What was yours?
Yeah, we were just dealing with the COVID stuff. And in the beginning of the spring of 2020, we were just kind of dealing with everything that was happening in the world. And, we were just kind of going through the motions, following the rules. And, by the end of, or the fall of 2021, we did end up getting sick. And, most of my family started to turn around, but my dad was still super weak. He was fatigued from being sick for probably 8 days. And, he was having trouble standing because he was so weak and fatigued. So we decided to send him to the hospital. And that's what we did. And at that time, we didn't realize what was happening in the hospitals. So once he got to the hospital, we were just in communication through the doctors and the nurses. Actually, it was mainly just the nurse at that time. And they were telling us that he was getting, he ended up going to the ER. And after that, they wanted to give him a PCR test, and he didn't really want to do that. And then, they started to, threaten him that if he didn't take the PCR test, that all the treatments wouldn't be available to him. and he eventually took the test. They told him that he was positive to COVID. They told us he was starting on COVID meds, which at the time we didn't know what that was. Now we know that to be remdesivir, dexamethasone, and a number of other drugs that come with that. And, within a few days of that, my mom was also still feeling sick and fatigued. And so she also went to the hospital, and they were actually hospital room neighbors. And my mom was, determined to go see my dad. So she was wanting to get up, and then she realized that she was alarmed to her bed. They didn't want her to get up, even though she wanted to get up and use the bathroom. They didn't want her to, but
Wow.
she pushed through that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then she wanted to see my dad, and they were refusing to let her do that. And, she had a nurse that said, that's inappropriate. And then, they basically had to wait until that nurse was off shift to get another medical staff to let her go see my dad. So she went over and did that after probably almost an entire day of being there. They did allow her over there. And then she realized she was locked in her room, so they had to unlock it and let her out, unlock my dad's room and let her in. And, she went to see him and realized that he didn't have his glasses. He couldn't, really even order food because he couldn't really read the menu. He couldn't watch TV. And so she was just like, oh, this is really hard. And he was having trouble because he was very sick. So she said, I just feel bad even being in here because it's causing you to do extra work. So I'm just going to kind of go in my room, because at that time she didn't realize that would be the last time that she would see him or talk to him.
No boy.
And then she tried to get out of his room, and she was locked in his room. So she said, well, I'm going to call the nurse. And he said, don't bother. They don't answer. So they eventually, after calling the nurse multiple times, they did answer and let her out, and then let her back into her room. And then she was just kind of in her room. And a couple hours later, the nurses came in, and they were like celebratory, and they were saying, look, we have these new color socks for you. You've graduated. You can get up now. You can get out of bed. So they were just basically saying that there wouldn't be an alarm on her bed. She could be able to get up. And what we know now is that they had moved him off the floor. So as soon as they moved him to another floor, they allowed her to move around freely in her room. And then, they moved him to progressive care, and he was there for a day or so. And then he went down to the ICU. So he went in on August 23rd of 2021. So by the 27th, he was in the ICU. And then it just started to become obvious that something was really happening with them. And my mom ended up leaving there. And when she was leaving, she wanted to see him again, and they refused to let her do that. And so when my dad was in the ICU, we were asking for, different medications to give him. So we asked for basic vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D. We asked for zinc. And they denied us that. And when he was up in his room, we even asked for monoclonal antibodies, and they told me personally that they didn't even know what that was. And at the time, I was like, that's strange. But now I believe that not to be the truth, because I think they knew what that was. And I don't know why they didn't want to give it to him. But then we also knew that he was getting a drug called vancomycin. And I had been researching different drugs and realized that can make you retain fluid. And he was already retaining fluid. So I said, can we remove him from that? And they said no. That was the gold standard. They refused to do anything else because they told me, quote, the one time that we did that and went off protocol, that person died. So they wouldn't do what we asked to give him or to remove. So we had no power. We couldn't get into the hospital to see him. He was absolutely isolated under COVID isolation. So you just feel so helpless. Then my mom came home, and we just continued to try and we were just praying at home, hoping that things were really going to turn around. And then the next we heard is that he was going to be ventilated. And we knew that was coming because they had been pushing that since almost the very beginning. And now that we have the records, we know that he was in the ICU for 2 days. So on August 29th, he got ventilated. And we know now that he hadn't eaten in 5 days. He hadn't slept in 2 days.
When did you find this information out? I mean, did you go in there and say, you start stomping your feet and saying, this is going to happen? Or was this all after the fact?
A lot of it was after the fact. I mean, we knew something was wrong. We were being contacted by friends and family saying, don't let him get remdesivir, don't let him get a vent. But by that time, that had already happened. So we were understanding that something bigger was going on.
Okay.
And that's when we learned about kind of the meds. And I was, asking them to do certain things, which they refused. But a lot of this we learned after because we couldn't be with him. And so I read the records. I've read them multiple times now. Now we know that they put in black and white in his records that vitamin D was deemed not appropriate during this admission.
Deemed by who?
The medical staff.
Okay, now there's two staff here. There's the staff that treat him, or is it the staff that administer him? Did they tell which one was in control of that?
No. When you're reading the records, and in my position, I'm not a medical professional, so I'm just reading the records. And so I believe it was a nurse note that said that vitamin D was deemed not appropriate, but I don't know exactly who made the order, who typed it in the system, but his records clearly show that he was not to be given vitamin D.
Wow.
Which is crazy because, they have studies they've done.
Right. Vitamin D is a sunshine vitamin.
Right. And they have done studies where in the ICU, people that are vitamin D deficient, which is
everybody, right?
Right.
This side of north of Missouri.
Right. Right. So the fact that they would put in there that he absolutely could not have it, it just blows my mind.
Do you feel that's, what do you call it, predetermined and careless and reckless?
Yes. I believe it's part of the protocol. We do know now that, he's on Medicare.
Yeah.
Medicare was offering 20% bonus payments to hospitals to administer remdesivir at the exclusion of other treatments.
Pick your poison, huh?
Yep. It literally is poison.
Was Ma back at home at this time?
Yes.
And how was she doing?
She was still on oxygen because she got remdesivir as well.
Did it damage her lungs?
Yeah, she's still not completely over this. She has a hard time, even making the bed to get out of breath. She's done a kidney cleanse since then, but yeah, she's never been the same since this visit.
And I get the helpless feeling. We share a story, me and you do. Hotcast and you have this. I had an uncle, and we've gone through this, and you've had a father that's gone through this, and I've took it to some next levels. I took it statewide, and I've made rules. Well, we've tried to make rules and laws in place that we already have, which is so crazy that we have to make a law work.
Yep.
And got kind of little to no traction on it. The William Shakespeare advocacy law about how a family member should be with their family, regardless of who it is, a proxy perhaps. And we couldn't during this time. So to me, that shows foresight of a system that is, I don't know, conspiring to commit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know the proper term. I'm no attorney, but I did stay at Holland Express once, and I don't think that makes even sense.
No. I think, I honestly believe now that they didn't want the families there because we would not have
put up with it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I know that with my Uncle Bill, Janelle was her, and she's in the medical industry, so she knows her P's and Q's, and she had to fight like snot to get in the room in which she was in her own hospital.
Right.
And it created a lot of turbulence in her professional world.
Yes.
Tough, I say tough. If this is what they're doing is sequential suicide or murder, then we need to be involved.
Yeah. These people needed us.
They needed us, yeah.
I mean, when you're in the hospital, you want to be comforted by family. We were not given the opportunity to do a FaceTime, which we know now they could have done and just had a tablet or something in the room. But sorry, my dad was absolutely alone.
Yeah.
For 16 days. That's horrendous. No one should have to be completely and utterly alone when they're in that condition, or any condition when they're in a hospital. They should have a hospital advocate. They should have at least one family member with them to help them make decisions. Because if they're low on oxygen, I don't know how they were accepting decisions from these people too. There's so many aspects of this that just don't make any sense, and it's just very sad.
Do you need a moment?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So here's where we kick in. Here's the rest of the world now. We've been through this. Your father's been through this. I've been through this. Now we get mad.
Yeah.
Now we get even.
Yeah.
And we fight this fight.
Yeah.
We are 13 minutes, 15 seconds into this first segment. What I want to do is I want to take a little break, let you compose yourself a little. And me, now that I'm all lit up, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Kung Fu. What does it take to, what does this company or this system you're working with, how do we fight this? So can you stand by a second?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Podcast, we'll be right back. Stand by. Buying a gun is no ordinary purchase. Whether you're a hunter, competitive shooter, or self-defense is your priority, there are many kinds of guns and many kinds of training programs. You use your brain all the time. You will rarely need to use your gun. Before you find yourself in a situation where you need to make a critical decision, make sure your training is the best you can get. It could be the difference between life and death, or freedom or detention. For the best quality training, check out permittocarry.us. If you live in Minnesota or Wisconsin or even Florida, give Gene German a call, 612-388-2403. That's Permit to Carry US. Or call Gene German at 612-388-2403. Welcome back to Headcast. A trying and true story that's in our studio today and felt by millions, at least hundreds of thousands of people throughout the country and the world. You guys overseas, you got the same stories, just a different format. And we want to inform you of what's going on here. Nicole Riggs from Medical Justice of Minnesota. She's the intake coordinator. So if you call that company, Medical Justice of Minnesota, I think it's a .org?
It's .org, and you could also find it by .com.
Okay. Reach out. Tell them your story. Let them know that, hey, you've experienced this. And we're gonna continue. We're not now. Here's why I wanted to take the break there. We roll out the Kung Fu now. Now we let the people know what's available to them. And in this little nutshell, we're going to say, hey, don't sit back idly. Because in order for evil to win, good people must do nothing. That's an old proverb of somewhere. Nicole, talk to us. What do we do? How do we get mad now?
Yeah, so once my dad died and I got the records, I knew something was very, very wrong. And I knew I needed to fight this. And I sought out other people that were fighting this kind of stuff. And I did an interview, a video interview. And once I did that, I thought, you know what, there must be other people that have done a video like this. So I looked in Minnesota and I found another girl my age who lost her dad. And she's a nurse and she wanted to fight. And so the two of us got together, and she knew Andy, who's the attorney we're working with now. And, I talked to Andy and we decided, you know what, there's a couple other families. Let's get together. Let's see what we can do with this. So last year in January, we got together. It was 4 families and 2 attorneys and a paralegal. And we said, we got to fight. We don't know how to do this or what to do, but we just started there. And then we just gained families and gained more knowledge and got talking to people and helping and started including more people in the group. And then once we got multiple people added to the group, we decided to do a support group on Tuesday nights. So since last year, we've been doing a support group every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central. And so we get together with the family. So Andy will come on and give us an update because now Andy has actually filed a case against Regions Hospital locally here for a local widow.
And Andy is?
He's the attorney with Medical Justice Minnesota.
And he's also, his office is here?
Yes.
Okay, and how do we get a hold of Andy if someone wants to call him?
So you would go to the website, Medical Justice Minnesota, and you would go to the contact tab. And, or I think there's 2 different tabs. We split it out so you can join the fight, so you can volunteer, you can get in contact with him in that way, or you can join the group. If you're a family of someone who has died from this or even survived, you can join that, and then I'll contact you, or Andy will contact you if after you talk to me that we decide that that's necessary. So, yeah.
So let's put this through the paces. Now, I'm a victim. I'm a victim survivor family, okay? Just like you.
Yep.
I call you up. I say, I think this has happened. Walk me through that process.
Yeah, so if you go to the website and you join the group, I will get an email that will be prompted to me, and then I'll call you and I'll say, hey, I'm Nicole, and I've got your story and I've been through it, and please tell me, what happened. Because a lot of people really just want to be listened to. They don't want to be shouted down, told that it's not happening, told that there's no way the hospitals could be doing this. They just want to be heard. We talk about the support group that we offer. If I know someone from some of the other intakes that I've done that's similar to their situation, I'll actually get them connected. So they have like a person that they can talk to that they can connect with. Like
a social worker, a caseworker?
No, more like another family that was at the same hospital with the same experience.
I gotcha.
Yeah, something like that. And then I will put their information into the database, and we'll kind of talk about what hospital they were at. And Andy, I know that he would love to file cases for everyone, but that's just not possible as one attorney. So we're definitely working on getting more attorneys because we'd like to also get these people help, because we have a 3-year statute of limitation in Minnesota, which is longer than every other state. And so it's possible that we can get these cases filed, but there's got to be a lot more attorneys involved. So we look at the dates and we try to see, if there's any possible way that Andy can help. He will try and do that, but it's overwhelming at this point because we have over 127 families, and that's just the families of someone that was lost, not even including the survivors, which we have, close to 30 at this point.
Oh, wow.
This is just Minnesota. We also have a database of people that have contacted us from other states. And I'm actually the Minnesota State Chair for the Former Feds Group, which is a national group. So they have at least 1,300 stories documented from across all the states. So if I know someone, I've made friends with people now in contacts with other states. So if someone calls me from Florida or contacts me from Florida or, Pennsylvania or whatever, if I know someone there, I'll try and get them connected to their own state, because that will be a different legal process and a different kind of support group. So.
Right. I would imagine the reciprocity wouldn't be anything in the legal system.
Yeah.
All right. Now what do? You've lined them up. You've got their information. You've segregated them into certain states or whatever. How do you prepare them mentally for what's about to happen? I mean, do you just say, hey, this is what we're going to do? Because what we don't want is another episode of the General Hospital doing what they did to us and locking us out. But how do they stay involved?
Yeah, that's where the support group comes in. So on Tuesday nights, people come on to that and we talk about all different things. The new people will share their story because that's really healing to do that. And a lot of people don't want to go forward with a case. They just want to be surrounded by people that understand where they're coming from So a lot of people just getting connected to the group, that's like it for them. The other people that want justice, they stay connected and they fight. They find out ways to help get other attorneys involved. And I know that Andy right now is getting a group together of attorneys that have offered to maybe help in some way. So there's going to be a group for that. We've also got a group of nurses that, like legal nurse consultants, that are getting together that are, figuring out how they can make this work. And so the families could afford to have their records reviewed in a legal sense, something that you could use, legally. So that's also working. So on Tuesday night, we talk about that stuff. And so the families stay involved as much as they want to be involved. So if they just want the group, they just come to the group. If they want more, sorry, go ahead.
No, the records that you're talking about, so they want to review the records. If they don't want to go any further, but someone else does, are they able to utilize the records of your loved one for the group to further the cause of the group? Is that something too?
Yes. So
you're building a database.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Well, then that's just a win. Just by being there, it's a win.
Yes.
And even though you don't want to get involved, you don't want that level of hassle or whatever it might be in your life, or the wrong time, that information is going to help your cause to move forward.
Yes. Yep. Because the more records that we have, we understand the systematic process they went through, the protocol of what they did, how they did it. And I've done, 150 of these calls now, and it's all the same. They're not given food. They're not given water. They're not allowed to have vitamins. They're not allowed to have basic treatments. And they're only able to go through the protocols. And so when we can prove that on the records, and you can see the systematic, on day this, on day that, how it went, and when, they were given antibiotic this time and it was stopped here, and then you got worse. And, it's all in the records.
So if I was to nutshell this almost sounds like a DNI forced upon you.
Yeah, they were pushing that. They were pushing the vent first.
Well, no.
Yep.
No, not willingly. They've just started this without your permission.
A lot of people, yes, that did happen too. Yep.
Because when you start cutting off food.
Oh, right. Yeah, I see what you mean.
All that gets shut off.
Mm-hmm.
That's a DNR.
Yeah.
And that's end of life treatment.
Yeah, those are end of life. Yes. So, the do not resuscitate, I would see that as a little different. But yeah, the end of life treatments, yeah, they push that highly. Yeah. And they did in our case too.
Don't you need a family authorization or a spokesperson to do that?
Did they do the DNR? Yes, you really should. And the doctors were overriding that in a lot of cases.
That shows foresight.
Yeah. Yes. And this is the thing I wanted to make sure and bring up too, is that, we're not required to wear a mask anymore. COVID had ramped down. It's ramping up a little now, but I think people think that just ended and it's over. It never stopped. We've been trying to help families, just me personally, not as medical justice, but just as a regular person from Minnesota, trying to help people in hospitals. And it gets to the point, like I was contacted in November, just a few months ago, of a man that was taken to Mankato Hospital. And he was taken for something that was not COVID related.
Okay.
They tested him for COVID. They told him he had COVID. They put him on the COVID protocols, the remdesivir, the medications, all the stuff. Within 3 weeks, this man was, his lungs were basically destroyed.
Oh boy.
Which is common in this case. And, then they tell the family, and this is literally what they say, your time here is done and we need the bed. And he either needs to go onto a ventilator or go on end of life care. And the family said, we don't want to do either one of those things. And the man is sitting in the bed listening to all this happen, this poor man. And then he's telling the staff, I don't want to go on a ventilator. I don't want to go on end of life care. I want the good Lord to determine when I die. And they just push it. And then, we did help the daughter to try and get him something that, we thought could help him. And within a day, literally, he was doing better. They moved him to a step-down unit. They put a video on the room, which scares the family to do anything, give him anything, do anything that can be seen as, not what the hospital wanted. So at that point, this man got really basically no treatment because the hospital was treating him like he was on end of life. And he got so miserable, he just told the family he wanted to be taken off everything. And so they did, and he died. And it was not necessary. It didn't have to happen. And this was in December of 2023.
Let me back you up a little.
Mm-hmm.
The hospital put him on a video.
Yep.
To watch the room.
Yep.
And yet, we're told as family members, you can't put a video in the room.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know. I think that they do have the option to put a tablet in the room, but we didn't know that. Some families did get a tablet in the room. But yeah, they put a video on the room, and it's really unnerving for the family, and you feel like you're some sort of criminal or something because you want to help your loved one.
Mm-hmm. Nazi Germany, 1939, ring a bell?
Yeah, it's not right.
Wow. Yeah, we were told we couldn't put a video in there.
Oh, really?
And I said, hold on here. You have the ability to record and I don't? Wait a minute here now. I think there's state laws on that.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be a video. If there is a video already, the family should have access to that so we could watch what's happening.
You're watching nothing, though.
Yeah.
They're doing nothing for them.
Right. Yeah, but I would have liked that just in the sense of feeling close to my dad instead of just not having any contact at all, not seeing him, not knowing anything about what's happening other than what we're being told by the nurses,
Right.
Yeah, but they don't allow.
I have this thing in life. Whenever I meet a new doctor, I'm no spring chicken, but I'm no idiot either. And I look at this doctor in the face because he's all of Doogie Howser age. And I say, who do you work for? And if he spouts the wrong answer, I stop it right there. I says, who do you work for? I work for the health system. Sorry, dude. You work for me.
Mm-hmm.
You just happen to get paid by them, which in turn is paid by me. So I urge all people out there, everybody, the first question out of your mouth to a doctor, who do you work for? And if they say technically they work for the hospital, then they're technically still wrong. They still work for you. They have a hold harmless clause in their Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
So people push that on your doctors. And eventually when you get the right one that answers it, and I think Dr. Scott Johnson was one of these guys, and he says, I work for you.
Yeah.
You have the right guy.
Yeah. And I just remember the hospitals being such a loving environment. I grew up thinking that the hospital was the best, safest place to bring someone, especially if you didn't know what to do. And, just to learn the reality of what it's become was just really hard. I felt like, he was in a prison. Basically, he couldn't get out. We couldn't get in. And he was just stuck there to receive whatever treatment that was pushed on him.
Yeah. You can see why a lot of people are upset over this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to defend any of the hospital systems, but you have to look at both sides of the story. They were told by somebody way higher up to do certain things about something they've never faced before.
Yep.
But they can't stop and take the human out of it. I don't care if God Almighty come down and says, here, you do this. Eventually, you're going to have the human in this. And there are people around you, your loved ones, all the people that make you who you are.
Right.
Should be there.
Right. And this is where the media comes in. And they were pushing so much fear that these people were so afraid. And they were like, if I get close to this person, I'm going to die from COVID. I think that a lot of the nurses and doctors, they saw what was happening and they knew it was wrong. And I think when they realized that COVID, could be treated and they weren't going to die from it, but then if they spoke up or if they didn't want to do a certain treatment with their
right.
patient, then they would be fired or removed from that area and put in a different place. So
I have a daughter-in-law that's a nurse, and I won't say the hospitals or who, and she didn't want to take the jab. I said, you probably shouldn't. At the time when she was having a baby. She was pregnant with this one, and the whole. And I said it would probably make sense not to take this jab. And the hospital started jumping down her throat. Well, okay. Now we start jumping down the hospital's throat.
Yeah.
We started doing the conscientious objector, the religious blah, anything you could possibly do. And they finally got the picture that she wasn't just going to comply.
Yeah.
My point to this is people don't comply. Question everything.
Yeah.
Verify. Dig into it. If you don't want to dig into it, then you get what you get. It's kind of like our government. If you don't engage, you get what you get. You deserve the government you've earned.
Yep.
Well, you deserve the hospital that you've earned if you don't ask questions and you don't put them in a position where you do work for me.
Yep. And I think what happens with people that this hasn't happened to, or even people that it has happened to, they don't want to believe that the hospital could be this way, that the hospital could be killing people, because then how does that affect me, right? What if I have to go to the hospital? Can I not go then? I think people can't mentally get over the hurdle of, if I really believe the hospitals are killing people, what does that mean for me and my family? And they just can't get there.
But during this one, they didn't know how to keep them alive.
Right. Well, I think they did know how, but they didn't do it. And
because they work for the administration. They don't work for you.
Right. Because they were being paid certain amounts of money to do certain treatments.
Right. That's the conspiracy of this. I get it. I'm there with you on that. But I don't think that all of them are that way.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, I would just say, I don't know if conspiracy, when you can go on cms.gov, which is the Medicare Medicaid website right now, and you can look up 20% bonus payment, and you can see on there, they have the codes for the doctors right on their website. It's still there, where they were offering 20% bonus payments to give certain treatments. So you can find it if you look for it.
You got to wonder who's pulling the strings, right?
Yeah.
Is this one of those Bill Gates things where they what do you call it? Sanctuary. Logan's Run, where if you get past 35 years old, they want to start thinning the herd?
Yeah, I believe that. I think that if you're on Medicare, it's much more dangerous for you to go into a hospital, because I wonder really if they give you medications because it's the right one for you, or it's because they get a payoff for doing that.
Financially dangerous.
Yes. Yeah, just like the ventilators. Every person that was ventilated, they got $39,000 for that. Every person that was given remdesivir, they paid $9. The hospital pays $9 to get it, but they charged $3,800, and then they got $20,000 for every person that received remdesivir. And then all the payments went all the way down to the coroner. If you put COVID-19 on the death certificate, they also got a payoff.
That's a whole lot of people.
Yes.
That's a whole lot of people doing the wrong thing.
Right.
So how can, I sit back and I look at the numbers of doctors and staff and people, and how do you figure that they're all on the same page?
Fear.
Fear of their job?
Yep.
Well, I guess I'd rather be fearful than murderful.
Yeah. Being a family of someone that was killed in a hospital is not an easy position to be in, but I wouldn't want to be on the other side of that. I wouldn't want to be the one, when my dad was at the end of life, when we were ready to take him off the ventilator. For one, when we went there to do that, we couldn't even do that for an hour because they had to wait until some of his meds wore off, because he was on so much he couldn't even die. Then we waited and they took him off. And then when we got the records, we realized, while we were there, they gave him a drug cocktail of fentanyl and midazolam. Yep.
Okay, let's shift this gear.
Yep.
How do we plug your book, plug your deal? What do we got here? Plug the company.
Yeah, so Medical Justice Minnesota, we're here for you. We're here to support you. If there's a possible way that we can help you get legal help, we will sure look at the case, and if there's any way we can find an attorney to help you, we will try. And so that's the goal, right? But even justice for me is getting the word out that my dad didn't die because he was not vaccinated. My dad did not die of COVID. My dad died because we trusted a hospital. They put him on protocols that were not safe, and they were killing people. And we want people to come to our group and get hope and healing and be around other people that understand and can comfort and support them.
End game.
Yeah.
I heard you say you had an end goal in process, but let's say this group is very successful and you scared the hospital systems. Although they got really big attorneys and we keep paying $7,000 for a cotton ball and they got plenty of money to do it. What if you scare them into submission where they don't want to do anything for you? What do you do then? Who helps us?
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary version, right? I mean, we want hospitals to stop using remdesivir because it kills 53% of the people that are given the drug. And yeah, half live, half die, but that's not a very good odds. And we want the hospitals to stop using that. If we can't get that, if we can't, I don't know. I'm concerned about people going into hospitals that don't know this information. And I think it's still not completely safe if you don't know that you need an advocate. And if they start blocking people from coming in again, I think it could ramp up again.
Let's hope it puts a face on this, a mask that you can wear when you go in there and say, oh, look, I'm somewhat educated now, which everybody is, and what not to do. And still hope that we get some better results than 53%.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, I got a text last night, late last night, that a good friend of mine, her mom, is in the hospital right now with COVID. And because of hearing about what I'm doing, she was like, okay, what should we get? What should we not get? How should we move forward? And so some people are waking up and they're knowing that they can reach out to us and get a little bit of advice, but this is still an issue.
Sure. Now, are you familiar with that? One of our show sponsors is Graith Care.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, why don't you tell people what they do for you?
Yeah, I actually use them, after having lost someone in a hospital. I don't really feel comfortable, with the medical system and the way it is. So I actually asked Graith Care for help. Last year, it was last January when I had to have a priority colonoscopy because something came up. And so they walked me through the whole process. They were there with me through the whole thing, through the results. And people can contact them. They charge by the hour, and it's a reasonable rate. And they have registered nurses that will help you make decisions. They will help. They're like a mediator between you and the staff of the hospital, and they're wonderful. I can't say enough good things about Graith Care.
Yeah, she's been on a couple times, and we've had discussions, and it's time for another one. And I'll tell you what, they got me thinking the right way.
Yep. Yeah. They've helped a lot of people.
Oh, I can imagine. And they're also worldwide, and they get multiple languages they could speak. And so I'm jazzed. I like the group.
Yeah.
And we should have some place to turn because we can't trust our medical professionals who work for who? Not us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to just go, dudes, wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What do we got? 25 minutes into this section. Let's plug on the way out your website.
Yep. Medical Justice MN. You can go on there and check us out. You can join as a volunteer. It's Join the Fight. You can join as a family and become a member. You can donate to the cause. There's a donate button on there, and you can help with some of the legal stuff that's moving forward. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm very thankful for us meeting. I'm very sorry for the circumstances and why.
Yeah, thank you.
And Hutcast is going to put this out worldwide. It drops Sunday at 5. Again, this is for the 2424 segment. I think it's episode 3 of year 5. And thanks to everybody who's been supporting the show. I'm still getting your emails. We're getting 30,000 impressions a month on Hate Book. It's the one you hate that love to hate, and it's just the way it is. But again, Nicole, thank you for taking your Sunday and bringing your sidekick with them.
Yes. Thank you so much for all that you're doing and getting the word out. Because if it weren't for people like you, we would be in a lot harder position trying to get the word out about this.
Well, we've all lived it, and we've all got our part to play.
Yep.
So Hutcast is signing off. Be well. Australia, again, thank you for all the input. We're hoping to get back into Russia pretty soon. I think there's some things lifting, so I'm starting to get some chatter over there. The Ukraine guys are doing good. I mean, we're in 7 languages now. I'm hoping to get 8, but we'll see how that turns out. Signing off, Hutcast. Be well. Until next time. And that's a wrap for Hutcast. Hutcast is, again, a pragmatic approach to seeing things how some people see them. If you like our show, give us a thumbs up on the Facebook site. Again, for Hutcast, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.